Welcome to another video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more psychological perspectives. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well and in the best health and condition. If you find yourself constantly broke no matter how hard you work, if your money gets stolen, you're scammed, someone controls your finances, or someone else has authority over your source of income. If you always find yourself defending yourself, making excuses, or explaining yourself to people for no reason, have you ever asked yourself why, the moment someone takes a little longer to reply, you assume they're tired of you? Why, as soon as someone gets to know another person, you assume they'll choose them over you? Why do you enter every relationship as if its ending has already been written from day one? Why can't you receive love? Why do all your relationships feel transactional? Why do people suddenly disappear from your life? Why does someone always drain you emotionally and then vanish? Why do you always feel like you have to pay a price just to be accepted? Why are there always problems in your romantic relationships? If you're constantly afraid that people will leave you, then you may still be trying to receive your Father's love through other people. I'd like to tell you that you may have what is called a father abandonment wound. The biggest proof of this is the way your romantic relationships unfold. Do you want a man who always says, yes, okay, whatever you want, who never argues, never disagrees, and accepts all of your suggestions? You might even prefer someone younger than you because you have a father wound and an intense need for control. You're unconsciously projecting onto him everything your father made you experience. Control, domination, forcing his opinions. And because your mother never had a voice, you tell yourself, I'll never live like my mother. Or perhaps you want a very strict man, someone who gets angry, yells, maybe even hits you. And somehow you feel safe with him. You may have accepted abuse and insults because your father wound became so deep that you started believing everything negative he said about you. Maybe you want a man who seems distant, surrounded by women, someone another woman could easily take away from you. But you convince yourself that you're the one who won him. The father abandonment wound often develops when a father divorced your mother and married someone else, or when he frequently cheated on her. As a result, you become willing to attach yourself to someone who will eventually leave you for another woman, and you keep chasing after him, getting hurt again and again because, to you, that feels familiar. That feels like love. Perhaps you want to be with someone whose status is much lower than yours, even though you're 100 times better off. You tell yourself, money isn't everything. We'll build our life together from nothing. You're willing to give up your own standard of living because your father wound convinced you that you don't deserve better. If your father constantly reminded you of the money he spent on you, then when you later became successful or financially independent, you felt like it was too much for you, like you didn't deserve it. So you chose someone below your level because that's how you unconsciously see yourself. You believe you're someone who isn't meant to have money. No matter how hard you work, money doesn't stay with you. The people around you, your husband, brother, father, boss, are stingy. Your money gets stolen. It disappears. You never felt safe with your father. He was a source of fear, violence, or neglect. He didn't protect you, so you grew up unable to feel safe. And money only comes to people who feel safe. People who believe they can protect themselves instead of living in fear. So you attracted someone who was almost an exact copy of your father, carrying the same wounds and the same unhealthy patterns. Because you judged your father so harshly, you ended up attracting what she describes as a karmic twin to help you release those judgments. Maybe you dream of a wealthy, influential man with power, connections, businesses, and money. And you keep saying, that's what I deserve. But your father wound came from having a traditional father who only earned enough to get by, always living paycheck to paycheck. You had dreams that couldn't be fulfilled with him, and you grew to hate poverty. Then every time you entered a relationship, you found yourself with a man who was overly attached to his mother or sister, who had no independence or authority of his own. You didn't feel his masculinity. Why? Because your mother was the one in control of the household, while your father had no real authority. You rejected that model of manhood. A man who couldn't carry responsibility, who couldn't even buy groceries or fix a leaking faucet, who avoided responsibility in every area of life. Look at your own family. Was your mother the one financially supporting the household? What role did your father play financially? Did he contribute even 50%? Or was it much less? Also, look at your father's relationship with his mother and siblings. Everything I've mentioned is considered a sign of the father abandonment wound. The father wound has many different expressions. It appears in several areas: your romantic relationships, the kind of spouse or life partner you choose, your relationship with money, your sense of deserving love and financial abundance, your ability to receive love. Everyone's father wound manifests differently. But in the end, many girls in the Arab world carry some form of father abandonment wound. Is everything a father wound? Isn't there such a thing as a mother wound? Are all mothers emotionally healthy? No. The father wound was especially common in the previous generation. It tends to appear most clearly in girls' romantic relationships, particularly through abandonment. The mother wound, on the other hand, is connected more with rejection and feminine identity, and that's a topic for another time. The father wound usually appears through the kind of life partner you choose and your financial self-worth. The mother wound appears in how you behave with your life partner and how you deal with money. Do you understand the difference? So how do you begin healing? The first thing that will completely change your life is learning to separate love from behavior. For example, you may love strawberries, their appearance, color, taste, juice. But if they cause you a severe allergic reaction that sends you to the hospital, would you keep eating them? Of course not. Likewise, there's a difference between loving your father and rejecting certain behaviors he practiced. We were raised to believe that a person and their behavior are the same thing. So if we reject our father's behavior, we think that means we hate him, that we're being disrespectful, sinful, or ungrateful. No, my dear. You can love your father while rejecting behaviors like stinginess, violence, neglect, or cruelty because those behaviors harmed you. Write this down. I love my father. Then write his name. After that, write, I reject his stinginess. I reject the violence. I reject the neglect. I reject the cruelty. Write everything freely. This exercise helps free you from guilt and teaches your mind the difference between rejecting a person's actions and rejecting the person. Even more importantly, you weren't living with Pharaoh. There were certainly some good memories too. Write those down as well. Why? Because they help free you from the drama of believing, I'm a victim. My father was completely evil. My whole life is ruined. Train your mind to notice the good, even if it's only one memory. Your thinking will change, and you'll begin to see your life differently. The second thing that quickly moves you from a victim mindset to a courageous mindset is realizing that just as you have a father wound, your father also had wounds. The difference is that he grew up in a time and environment where going to a psychologist was considered shameful, embarrassing, or something only crazy people did. He probably never even thought about healing because people simply weren't aware of these things. Just as you're suffering, he was suffering too. You may reject that idea and say, that doesn't excuse what he did. You're free to feel that way. But continuing to reject what happened keeps you trapped in the victim mindset. The energy of resistance keeps a person stuck. If you stay there, you'll likely continue attracting failed relationships and financial struggles. The choice is yours. When you realize your father also carried trauma, you'll stop feeling like you're the only person in the world who has been wronged. That realization makes it easier to free yourself. You're not required to sympathize with him or approve of what he did. You're simply asked to recognize that if he never learned to heal, you still have the opportunity to heal yourself. Wouldn't that be better than both of you remaining unhealed? As for healing the inner child and the inner teenager, I can't explain it in detail because there are 16 different types, and each case is different. After healing the inner child and inner teenager, the next step is shadow work. The shadow is the part of yourself that your father or mother rejected. Here we'll focus on the father. You need to identify the part of yourself your father rejected, the part you buried and locked away. You have to accept that hidden part of yourself. That subject deserves a discussion of its own. One of the first changes people notice after beginning to heal even a small part of the father wound is improvement in their relationship with money. But healing should continue afterward, so you don't experience what I previously explained as the fourth dimension crisis in my other videos. The last and most important point. Eckhart Tolle says we shouldn't call it a father wound. Instead, call it the father's test on the journey toward your true self. If it's a test, then it means there's an exam to pass. I've said before that discovering your authentic self always involves a test. Some people spend years in that test, others spend only months. You choose. Calling it a father wound means, I'm a victim. This is my fate. I've been wronged. Calling it a father's test means, I'm taking an exam. This isn't my permanent reality. I can move beyond it. I can overcome it. It's temporary, and it's preparing me for something better. In the end, you're not actually being replaced, and your worth hasn't disappeared. You're simply experiencing the signs of a father abandonment wound. You recognize the wound through these signs. Try to heal it, and God willing, you'll succeed. With that, we've reached the end of today's episode. I'll see you next time, God willing. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you.